Hello everyone, this is Venom Geek Media here, and today I'm doing another discussion video, in particular on Picard, the series of Picard, and given how, frankly, slow this series is moving, I think I'm going to preempt a plot twist with this little theory of mine, several episodes ahead, because frankly at the pace they're moving I've got plenty of time for this theory to preempt them. So what am I going to talk about? So there's a lot of issues to talk about. There's two main issues: is obviously the destruction of Romulus, the evacuation, the androids, and the law against synthetics. That I'm really going to cover in another video where I talk about really how these synthetics weren't really like data, and I'll explain why in that video. Looking back at Measure of a Man. Today I want to discuss the attack on Mars and come up with a theory as to why it happened, and I'm pretty sure is going to be the explanation. So, Picard is like, I don't understand, why did the Romulans attack Mars? It makes no sense. And I'm like, yeah, it does though, doesn't it? So, okay, why? So what was the upshot? The upshot of the Mars attack was that Starfleet no longer evacuated Romulans. And that is because the people in power on Romulus, the government higher-ups, the remains of the Tal Shiar, the military command, don't want that. Why don't they want that? Well, they don't want to lose their population. Think about it from the Romulan perspective. The majority of Romulans have no clue really as to the reality of the Federation. Bear in mind, the Romulan Empire is a tyrannical, authoritarian state with a strong control of information. Most regular Romulans have no real actual idea as to what the Federation is like. All they've been fed is government propaganda, which is hardly the most reliable thing. So, they see this Federation as this evil external enemy. That's why they'll then be supportive of any future wars and conflicts with the Federation, because it's their ancient enemy, essentially. If the Federation start rescuing people, if Starfleet start rescuing Romulans, and these Romulans who have never before come into contact with the Federation, proper Federation ideas and beliefs, then they're likely to be influenced by them. There's a risk then that you'll actually struggle to then rule these people in the future, because now you have a bunch of people who have seen how the Federation live, how Federation citizens live, how Starfleet does things, and see it as it's a better way than this authoritarian state. So the government wants to prevent this from happening. Why? Well, because then it means in the subsequent diaspora of Romulans, what's going to happen is, if you then have any, as the Romulan government, if you have any hope, if you want any hope of ruling these people again, then you need to make sure that they are still susceptible to those kinds of rule. And if they, have encountered the Federation's way of doing things, they may not be so easily subjugated as before. A historical point would be in Russia. After the Napoleonic Wars, Russian officers went back to Russia, but having been to France and seeing how things were done in France, which was a liberal state, as opposed to Russia, which was a firm authoritarian autocracy, and oddly enough, they started thinking, maybe we should try it this other way. You'd have that same problem in the Romulans. If they start coming into contact with the Federation, then they're more likely to come into contact with Federation ideas, and those are really the threats to your power. Whereas if they don't, then the Romulan system of government is all they're ever going to know, and that's just how it is. So then it would be much easier to reassert control. And then the second, so by attacking Mars, you're preventing that evacuation by the Federation from happening. It also then makes it look like the Federation betrayed those people, which drives further xenophobia, and again makes it more likely that you'll be able to reassert control in a future point. The second real point is that by attacking Mars, you're crippling Starfleet. Bear in mind, Utopia Planitia is, the home of Starfleet. Basically, it's their centralized construction yard for pretty much everything. Everything Starfleet is built there largely. Again, you're the Romulans. You want to kind of your empire's about to crumble, and you know it. And if again you want any hope of ever bringing it back, or essentially preventing Federation domination, attacking Utopia Planitia is a pretty good idea, because it's gonna, for starters, like I say, it bamboozled them, the Federation, and they didn't really understand why. And it's like, how do you respond to that? These are people, it was all a bit late to respond, I guess. There was then no Romulan government left for them to take action against. So in which case, you've then crippled Starfleet. Bear in mind, at this point in history, as far as we know, there's a lot of stuff that hasn't really been explained. What's happening with the Cardassians? What's happening with the Klingons? We don't really know. We just know the Romulan state of affairs is that there's a big diaspora. And I do wonder a lot in terms of, well, okay, yeah, sure, Romulan worlds have been destroyed, but what about the fleet? There's a big Romulan fleet out there. Are they broken up into warlords? Hopefully that's something that will be covered. But so it looks like the Federation are about to become the superpower in the Alpha Quadrant. In the Alpha Beta Quadrant, but I use the Alpha Quadrant as a catch-all term. The Federation are about to become a dominant power. What do you, as the Romulans, you're still in a position to kind of do something about it? If you can cripple them now, that sets them back, that stops them getting the leg up, and hopefully, if you're able to re-establish your government, re-establish everything in the aftermath of all this, the Federation shouldn't have too much of a lead on you. I think that's the idea, and also it kind of causes the Federation to become, I guess, more cautious. You're also, by using the androids, you're also convincing them to throw away one of their great technological advantages. Although, again, the whole question of androids versus EMHs in terms of legal rights, and of course AIs, which weren't really much of an idea back when Star Trek was first on telly, but now I think it's something that has to be dealt with. Better than the Skynet that we got in Discovery. What was it called? Control. It was stupid. I'd like some Star Trek to actually take a serious look at the role of AI in the future and what it actually means. Yeah, so by having the attack happen in such a way that it then causes the ban of androids, again, you're bringing in some technological limitations. Not only are you crippling their military-industrial complex, which is allowing, basically, it means that all those Romulan regions are much more chaotic because they're not being protected by Federation. All those refugee planets are under Federation protection, effectively, so it means there's warlords, and it means that if a centralized government comes along again, with most of the same features as the old, they'll probably happily accept its rule, would be my guess. And you've prevented the Federation from using their main technological advantage of androids and artificial intelligence. So again, they won't have grown that tech gap too much, hopefully. Hopefully, if we accept that they were at technological parity before the supernova, then it's been 20 years? They've maybe got a 10-year leap. And let's bear in mind, the Romulans aren't sitting on their arse with regards to technology during this period. You've got elements of the Romulan government old elements of the Romulan government, powerful, rich people, whatever, who use the fleet to acquire things like the Borg artifact. And they can then in future use that Borg technology to augment their own. Again, something that's not been covered because we haven't seen Federation ships is whether or not they've got Borg augmentations as well, because of course they have, at this point, Voyager has returned, or at least in one timeline, I don't know, but Voyager's returned, so you need to have a leg in this whole Borg tech race that's happening as well, and the Romulans do. So yeah, those are kind of my arguments as to why it does actually make sense for the Romulans to carry out that Mars attack, securing the future of a old-fashioned authoritarian Romulan government by preventing people from coming into contact with Federation ideas, causing a diaspora, which results in the Federation being resented by most Romulans and contributes to that further sense of xenophobia. It then means they're much more easily willing to accept an authoritarian government, and it technologically sets back the Federation, and gives you that time you need to gather yourself and catch up and hopefully reassert yourself as a interstellar power. So those are my thoughts, but what are your guys? Let me know in the comments below, and I'll see you guys in the next video.